On the front line, how do you cope with a killer you can't see? Improvised explosive devices, or IEDs, are one of the most deadly and feared ways of attacking in today's conflict zones of Afghanistan and Iraq. Cheap and relatively easy to make, they're the Taliban's first choice of weapon when attacking troops, without the need for hand-to-hand combat. Fighting on the front line is a high-pressure job, demanding huge amounts of bravery and courage. But in the heat of the battle, how do you cope with a threat that's invisible or understand the damage it could cause? That's what a brand new exhibition is setting out to tackle. Called The Unseen Enemy, the idea is to raise awareness of how IEDs impact on soldiers' lives, on the battlefield, and what life is like for people who've been hurt by them.
We were moving off, we were on a steep hillside. I stood up to move away, and due to the weight on my back, carrying approximately 100 pounds, I lost my footing, stepped back out of the safe lane and detonated a device. Only the detonator went off. It was a partial function, but it still shattered my left heel into about 9 pieces and left with some minor brain damage. My injuries were quite minor compared to a lot of people, but they still changed my life. It meant that I had to leave the army. There's a lot of support out there, but a lot of soldiers are not very good at asking for help or taking it. But there's also a lot of public support out there, which means a huge deal to people. You know, increasingly, what we are seeing is that there's not only significant physical injuries, but also quite a lot of psychological damage being done to people, because it's not a normal experience to go to war.
Oh, they're hugely dangerous. They're probably the most dangerous threat that the soldier faces because it's so unknown. And you know very well our own fear of the unknown. Well, we know that there are going to be threats when we go out on patrol. And any serviceman is going to be prepared for the sniper, he's going to be looking for that threat, he's going to be looking in conventional warfare for the enemy tank.
In scenes like this in combat zones all across the world, troops are scouring the floor looking for any signs of improvised explosive devices like this one here. It takes years of training for bomb disposal squads. This is one of the best forms of defence, the Mobile Protection Vehicle, also known as the Mastiff. It weighs more than 20 tonnes, costs over £250,000 and is designed to withstand a blast from an IED. The exhibition tells the story of how improvised explosive devices have been used in battle for over a century. The scary thing is how easy they are to make, some with just wood and plastic.
Actually, the device itself is fairly crude. It's an incredibly sophisticated machine that has to go into operation to defeat it. And I think that's a really important difference.
IEDs cause death and destruction to all who stand in their way, leaving soldiers psychologically damaged and maiming others with permanent disabilities.
It takes a huge amount of concentration to go on patrol and perpetually think about where these bombs could be, keep an eye out for them. But then if you are hit, they cause incredible damage if you're lucky enough to survive. We've come a long way, I think, in dealing with this. In dealing with the threat on the ground, but also in the aftercare.
Can you imagine going out of a base and every step you take, you might be blown to kingdom come? Can you imagine what that does to your guts? I mean, you're frightened sick. So people are terrified by IEDs.
8,000 troops are still in Afghanistan from the UK alone. Other nations, including Britain, are due to pull more out before the end of the year. So the burden for policing the country will be on local forces, who will inherit the responsibility to keep the country safe and deal with the hidden threat of IEDs.